Technology, business, multimedia, wellness and health, events, reviews, and more. This is Mary Collins from LifeHakx Media, and I have the pleasure of having Eva Weisenbeck, our wellness and health coach, back online with us today. Hi, Eva. How are you?
Hi, Mary. I'm very good, thank you. I'm excited to have another chat with you.
Yes, especially as it's part of our critical thinking versus dun 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 conspiracy theory segment. And we had started off part of that with vaccines, to vax or not to vax, correct?
Yes. And that is still the question.
And that is still the question, because as time goes on, we are discovering there are more and more hiccups to the big plan for vaccination. So with that, what are the updates currently now with what's going on right before summer?
Yeah, so I think I've got a long list here because I think we're just going to try and read some stuff off and then we can talk about it. Okay. So when we talked about it last time, the ones that are in existence now they weren't even really they weren't being used. I was going to say authorized, but they're not authorized. So maybe we should start there.
Yes.
So let's just run through a quick list. So the ones that people will have heard of is Pfizer and Moderna, which are in the mRNA category. And if people are curious, they can go back and listen to the first segment we did, which kind of explains a bit more what that means.
Exactly, in the big blog, because you have an amazing blog.
There's some wonderful links in there to lots of articles. So go and check that out. And then there's the AstraZeneca, which is used in Europe a lot, and the Johnson & Johnson, which has kind of been used and then stopped in America. And they work in a similar way. So they are more what I refer to as the Trojan horse, where they take a different virus. So in the AstraZeneca case, it's a chimpanzee virus, and they kind of put the DNA into it, so it kind of gets into your body that way.
Chimp DNA. Come on, Planet of the Apes. Here we go. Great stuff.
But picking up where we started. So the key thing here is that all of these. And I can only really talk for Europe and the US. I don't know the whole world situation, but they are under emergency use authorization. And that's really important. So they are not approved products. They haven't been through all the trials. They are still in phase 3 clinical trial.
Which means that they are not legally, they can't be sued for malpractice, correct?
Oh, no. They also have complete indemnity. All of them have complete indemnity. But that actually goes not just for these, but for a lot of the vaccines prior to this as well that are out there. Wow. But for these, certainly you cannot sue them if anything goes wrong, if you get injured by them. But it technically means that if you are taking any of these now, you are actually enrolling in the clinical trial, technically.
Without getting paid, guys.
Without getting paid.
You're paying to be a guinea pig. Woo! College days are over.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that, as long as you know about it and you're happy about it. But these trials aren't set to finish until 2023.
Right.
That's quite a long time left.
Long time, and a lot of people to do damage to, if there's damage.
Yeah.
And we are seeing some stuff now, which I'm sure you're going to tell us about.
Yeah, so, we can skim on it. I think this is where it's so difficult. Obviously, most people will have heard about the blood clotting issue, low blood platelets. I mean, that can lead to stroke, that can lead to bruising, it can lead to all sorts of things.
What does that do to people with cancer?
I don't know.
Yeah, because they're giving the vaccine to people with cancer. And they're giving it to people.
I mean, this is so tricky, and I also
their choice is being taken from them, and it's this rings a bell from the past when people with special needs and were the first to be experimented on or carted away for their own good, of course.
Yeah. And I mean, not being funny, but there are some horrific stories coming out here, and I've certainly seen it in the US too, where as you say, often disabled people of some ilk or old people with dementia in care homes and stuff, where because relatives can't go and visit, they are being more or less force vaccinated against the family's wishes. And there's some really iffy, not very nice situations.
And that's something else, Eva, because we talked on our last segment about the 3 biggest killers in the US, right? I don't know if it was the US and the UK, but it was definitely the US.
Yeah.
And it was 1, heart disease, which getting fat doesn't help you, and being locked up doesn't help that if you're not getting exercise. 2, cancer.
Yeah.
Which comes from a lot of chemicals in our environment and chemicals we're exposed to through vaccines and pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And 3, medical malpractice.
Yeah.
And so the joke is that I was trying to find the medical malpractice on the scale of mortality in populace, right, in the US. And it's just not there anymore. It's just like the flu, it's just disappeared. There's no medical malpractice. Isn't that weird? I mean, it's not happening anymore, yet people aren't able to see their loved ones in hospitals or care homes, but it's just COVID. COVID just happens to be what kills everyone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
It is interesting, and let's chuck a little rabbit hole into that, because if anyone is curious, do go and look up. I certainly know in both, again, the US and in the UK, which is what I'm talking about, the guidelines changed as to how you report death on like death certificates. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad or that it shouldn't have been done. But they changed. So like if a person has cancer, heart disease, and they're obese, and they happen to be 83 years old and they get COVID, and unfortunately they pass, because COVID was involved, they have like 2 columns. COVID will go in the first one.
Hilarious.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
it's just something to be aware of, because when we're being, we get all these numbers thrown at us.
Every single day on the radio, every single day, except on LifeHakx. To hell with that. Okay.
Yes.
They are reporting this many COVID deaths. I'm like, wait a minute. Why aren't they reporting how many deaths just have happened with a vaccine? You know why? Because they're not actually even there's a lot of elderly people getting that vaccine, and all of a sudden they die of natural causes.
Yeah. So actually, I've got 2 things. We're gonna go through the reporting, because the reporting is very interesting. We'll do that in a bit. But yeah, I think what you and I have tried to say all along is that we need to be curious and ask questions, and it's all about a personal choice. We're not saying do it or don't do it. We're saying look at your risk benefit. So again, going back to our statistic episode, go and have a conversation with your doctor. If you're 18 and fit versus 79 and poorly, you're going to have completely different risk profiles from COVID-19, and you're going to have completely different risk factors from a vaccine or from an gene therapy injection, whatever you want to call them. So it should be a personal decision.
Right. And by the way, guys, I know I'm being the protagonist here, but that's the point. There's no point in us coming on here and being like, take the vaccine, this is why it's wonderful. Or both of us being, like nitpicking and saying it's terrible, doomsday. We are trying to balance each other out to show you that we really thought this through, and we've really gone to a lot of effort to find. Eva has gone to a lot of effort to find all of the research. I've gone to the effort to find all the conspiracies, because why not? She's got the actual facts.
But we need both.
Good cop, bad cop. No, cops are forbidden.
No, we're not actually. We're so good.
Good criminal, bad criminal. No. Wait, hold on. I don't know whose side I'm on anymore. That's another story. Anyway, go on.
I think both sides. It's much more fun. Let me chuck in a few numbers and then we'll move on. So yes, as I said, so you've got the 4 key vaccine players in like the Western world that we know of. There's then maybe another 5 which are sort of in trial, sort of in use. You've probably heard of the Russian one, the Sputnik, which I think is quite cute. But actually, it's got quite good data on it.
Okay.
So, but again, what do you trust? He doesn't want to
kill off his people? Really? Why? What's going on? I thought he had.
Obviously, there's the Chinese, the Sinovac.
Right. Okay. And
that one they're saying is the efficacy isn't so good at the moment. But again, I don't know. Who do you trust?
Not the people who put lead poisoning in baby's milk. Maybe not them. Skin animals alive. Maybe not.
Or like asbestos in baby powder? Is that what
I
we're
don't
talking
really. I
about?
mean, why wouldn't we trust them? Come on.
But no, let me just chuck this in because I think this is fascinating. Yeah. So we have all of these already there. We know Pfizer's gone out and said we're working on an updated one. There's going to be a booster one. I'm sure AstraZeneca's talked about a booster one already as well. So this is like a rolling thing. But in the pipeline, I'm going to read this because it blows my mind. There are 252 more vaccines specifically for COVID-19 in the pipeline, as in like in trials, and 326 new treatments.
For something that kills, let's just remind people, I know, for the one brain cell some people have.
So I did fresh stats for the UK today.
All right, please.
Yeah, so, and this is off the government website, I can post all the details. The overall, so like if you take the population as just a blob, the overall risk of death is 0.2%.
Okay.
Yeah, if you, and I mean, I sound very harsh about it. I'm not, because it's obviously awful, and you don't want to lose a loved one to any issue.
Right. Even though we're all.
We're not saying that, but I think we need to kind of look at the data.
Yeah.
Now, if you remove the over 75 out of that, which in the UK is 5.4 million people, so if you look at the risk for anyone under 75 is 0.06% of risk of death from COVID-19.
I'm just curious to know if you have because I know the vaccine, there's been a couple of deaths, not a couple, there's been a few thousand deaths.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about that because people, like the propaganda media spin on it is like, yes, but it's only 30 people in 15 million. But I'm like, but hold on a second, because how many people is it that have died from COVID in the same amount of people? You know what I mean? Like it's
and
such
the same populations.
And the same population, exactly. Because like you said, everyone over a certain age, they're like lumping it now. It's all COVID. They don't just die because they're old, like it's COVID or because they have cancer. And that's something else that really annoys me, is because it's like, if this was really seriously affecting people with diabetes and pre-existing conditions, how many million people, a billion people would be dead easily?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because there's young people with diabetes. There's young people with cancer. They're not dying from COVID.
No.
However, now thanks to a few vaccines, we have young people dying of thrombosis and brain aneurysms and also in the uterus. They're finding stuff with women, especially women, right? You've got that.
Yeah, I got that.
Oh, good. Take it away, Eva.
LifeHakx.
So, as you were saying, or about to say about AstraZeneca, before I went off on another rant, which I intend to do, go ahead and tell us what what we should consider.
Yeah, so we'll pick a little bit of AstraZeneca because we have some data, but bear in mind that all four, so Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Johnson & Johnson has also now been temporarily put on hold for clotting issues. So they all have similar issues, and I kind of think it's not strange because that's what the disease does. The disease can cause clots, so it kind of stands to reason. Quickly mentioning how adverse reactions are recorded, because this is where I think there's a huge problem, particularly because we're in a clinical trial and no one is collating data, which kind of kills me, being like a data person. I'm like, what?
Right.
Anyway.
Why are they collecting data?
It's just shocking. So in America, there is a system called VAERS, VAERS, and in the UK it's called Yellow Card, and in Europe, I don't know whether there's a singular one or each country have their own. So you'll have to, go and talk to your doctors or find out. But they are passive systems, meaning that me as a patient have to go, oh, I've just taken this pill, or I've just had this injection. Now I'm having a reaction and I'll put it in. But it's not collated by doctors, and it's...
What? Well, so if you don't report it, kiss and tell, right? Or what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah.
like die.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
unless
to give you a quick example, just to highlight, and I know America is obviously a little bit different with health insurance and suing and stuff like that, but in America, so this has been, so the vaccine court in America is called, because obviously all of these have indemnities, which we said. So that's been going for 30 years. They've paid out 4 billion. The government in the states have paid out 4 billion in compensation to people who have been vaccine injured. This is just for vaccines, yeah.
Hey, taxpayers, more good use for your money.
Here comes the scary part, because that sounds bad enough.
Not the pharmaceutical companies, right? They're not paying for it. Wow.
No, they're not. That's estimated to represent 1% of people who are injured. But like, so few even get reported, and then so few get taken to court. Right. So it's one, and they're saying it's about 6,300 cases, representing 4 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in there too, but we won't go into that today. Just dropping little curiosity nuggets there.
Right.
Jumping back to AstraZeneca, blood clots in females.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the UK. So what they found was that if you're under the age of 30 and you're female, they do not recommend the AstraZeneca vaccine injection, because they have found these clotting issues that would not naturally occur in this population. Yeah.
There you go.
And this is, I'm going to have to bring my mum into this, because I love and adore my mum. She's in Sweden and she's had her first vaccine, which I have no issue with, because she's of an age and she's got some heart issues and stuff. So I think it's a sensible path for her. But we talk about this, and she said, oh, okay, so that's under 30. But so does that mean that, what, is it safe for older? Or is it just that they don't really care if we die?
Correct.
And I was like, Mum, I love you. Because, it's not a case of if you're over 30 and you're female, it's safe. It's a case of they have just said that they think the benefit outweigh the risk. Talking about personal choice and having the information to take decisions for you. And again, I'm going to pick on AstraZeneca, a little bit unfair, but I found this fascinating for Europe. So UK and Greece have said, if you're under the age of 30, we do not recommend it. I'm going to read this to get it right. If you're under the age of 55, Belgium and France. The age of 60, Estonia, Germany, Iceland, Italy, Portugal, Spain. 65, Finland, Lithuania, Sweden. 70, Iceland. Denmark, Netherlands, Norway have pulled AstraZeneca for all ages.
Good for them.
Yeah. So, but this is such a good example, I think, to show that it's not black and white. It's not a case of something is good or bad. It's all about assessing the risks and the benefit for you. But just to kind of think that if, okay, so I happen to live in the UK, so they say if I'm over the age of 30, I can have the AstraZeneca. If I lived in Sweden, where I'm from,
no way.
I'd have to be over the age of 65.
Right. And it makes you wonder, they're not telling us everything then, because you don't put a load of money into this sort of advertisement and push unless you intend to make a load of money back. And let's face it, I mean, the majority of medicines have about 50 things that can go terribly wrong, like basic painkiller. It may make you gain weight. It may make you have a heart attack. You may want to go out and kill someone. You may want to kill yourself. You may get cancer from this. I mean, and the list goes on, like literally the list goes on. And yet this thing that is such a pandemic, such a serious, like kills less than 1% of the population who die anyway every single year. And now all of a sudden, all that money, including all these like pretty much like machines to have tests in them, like a snack bar, they're popping up everywhere. Yeah. They aren't pulling this for no reason, people.
Oh no, this is. I mean, the way I look at this is like they are pulling. So I'm getting AstraZeneca. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, the UK, but like the only reason they said we don't recommend it under the age 30 is because they. It's like they can't get away with it. That's the best way to put it. They can't get away with it.
And what are the chances those girls would have caught COVID? And
minute, unless they had severe underlying issues. You know,
So this is the thing, people, think about that. Think about that. Do not force the younger population who could become, we don't know, sterile.
yeah.
We don't know. Have cancer. We don't know what it could cause, but we do know for a fact that they don't currently die from COVID.
Yeah.
And we do know for a fact that they do die from the vaccine.
Yeah.
What is it hard for you to fathom? So that's perfect, Eva. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mary. It's been brilliant.
LifeHakx.
LifeHakx.com. That's with a K and an X on Radio X.